Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, September 13th, 2022. Today's edition of the Cipstack on Substack is titled 5 Things Every Self-Published Author Needs, Part 1, Copyright, and Lessons on Patience from Eastern Masters of Philosophy and Tactics. Good morning, writers, readers, poets, and dreamers. Don't worry, you didn't miss anything. There was no Cipstack yesterday. I've been doing some international travel, and while I was supposed to return home late Sunday night, there were complications. So this week's edition is a day behind. Not to worry, you will either get a rare Saturday copy of the Cipstack, or I'll conclude the article series in Sundays with Cip. This week we're going to be discussing the top 5 things every self-published author needs, lessons from Lao Tzu and Sun Tzu for writers, and really long books that are worth your time. All right, let's do this. Article 1. 5 things every self-published author needs. Copyright. Attaining a copyright on your work should be the first major concern of any self-published author. It's a little-known fact among aspiring writers that when you go to the traditional publishing route, the publishing company itself will own your work, which is one of the draws to self-publishing. But it also means that self-published authors need to make sure that they take some protective legal measures of their own, the first of which is securing the rights to their work. A key takeaway here is copyright establishes a timeline and validation. Simply put, this makes it more difficult for others to infringe on your work. You've taken the steps to legally step forward and say, I have created this work. Now, you may not realize this, but simply writing your manuscript, or by simply writing your manuscript, you technically already own the copyright. It's automatic. Especially with so many new ways to digitally timestamp your work, you are not required to attain an official copyright with the U.S. Copyright Office. However, there are several benefits to doing so. And if you intend on monetizing your work, i.e. self-publishing and selling your book, you absolutely should, without fail, make this the first stop in your publication journey. By registering for a copyright, which can be done at copyright.gov, and for listeners, I want to really hammer this home, there are a lot of different places that you can basically pay for people to file your copyright for you. If you want to do it yourself, which is the cheapest way to do it, copyright.gov. Go to the government website on copyright. And then you go through their ecosystem. ECO stands for electronic copyright. And you end up protecting yourself in a few important legal ways. Some of them are litigious, but necessary, like establishing your right to open up a suit if someone infringes on your work, or being able to claim statutory damages. More importantly, though, it establishes a timeline and validation. Simply put, this makes it more difficult for others to infringe on your work. You've taken the steps to legally step forward and say, I have created this work. One last note on copyright. Your work must be fixed in order to file for it. While you can do some basic line editing after establishing a copyright, if you ever add to your book or meaningfully alter its content, you should seriously consider filing for a new copyright to protect those changes. Once you've established a copyright, it only protects the submitted work. There are a lot of great resources out there to explain copyright in greater detail, and I definitely encourage you to read through the government site, although it is a bit clunky. Article 2, Lessons in Patience from Lao Tzu and Sun Tzu. Patience is critical to the work of any artist, especially writers. It takes a long time to craft a quality manuscript. You should be able to approach your work with both urgency and energy, as well as steadiness and patience. Critically, to be patient means to have the ability to pause, not stop. It is a form of self-discipline. So let's turn to 2 of the Eastern Masters of Philosophy and Tactics for inspiration. Lao Tzu famously asked, do you have the patience to wait until your mud settles and the water is clear? Sometimes as writers, we become so obsessed with moving a project forward that we wade into muddy waters. I've discussed ways to deal with writer's block in the past, but remember that one of the best ways to clear the water is to rest on a project. Wait for the right idea to come to you. Work on other writings while you wait for the mud to wash away. Now, Sun Tzu taught that passivity means waiting for an opportunity, and I especially like this quote. It goes back to being active even when at rest. We've discussed ways to keep your mind active and writing sharp on days that you're not pursuing your main manuscript, which stems from this philosophy. Just because you are seemingly at rest does not mean you are doing nothing. You should be observing your world and your thoughts and waiting for an opportunity to pounce on your work. Keep your mind active while you are at rest. Article 3. Really long books. The Lord of the Rings. The very first long book that comes to mind that I recommend people read is naturally The Lord of the Rings. We tend to think of it as a trilogy because of how it is structurally broken up, but Tolkien intended it to be read as one work. And in terms of truly impressive storycraft, deeply developed themes, and emotional payoff, there is a reason this book is held up as a modern standard. It always feels cliche to say it was a main source of inspiration in my writing, but to this day, that remains true. To be clear though, it is quite long, dense, and written to be intentionally biblical, so the prose can be a little opaque sometimes. It also takes a while to wind up, but if you have the patience to read through the book's first act, you will be rewarded with an incredible narrative experience. I'm making an effort to get these back to the brief format for this newsletter and not go on quite as long about these topics. After all, the idea has always been to hit you with a few pearls of wisdom and advice and let you get on with the day. So that being said, that's all for today. We'll see you all tomorrow, my friends. Take care.